Welcome to Coach Me, the podcast for women who want more. More clarity, more confidence, more you. We're Tanu and Catherine, friends, working moms, business women, and real-life coaching buddies.
Each week, we cut the BS and bring you insights, tools, and truth bombs that help you show up stronger at work, at home, and in life. If we can coach each other through the chaos,
we can coach you too. Welcome back to episode 12 of Coach Me. Today, we're talking about those moments when life suddenly changes your plans. You know the ones, you're dressed, you're ready, excited, and then your phone buzzes. So sorry, can we rain check? Or your child is sick. You know the situation. A client actually recently asked me how to handle those changes better. And here's the truth. It's not just about mindset. It's about what happens when something you've been looking forward to just gets cancelled out of the blue. And yes, we are adults, but still, there is that sting of disappointment, isn't it? So together with my client, we created a backup joy list, which is a set of small things that light you up, ready for when plans do fall through. Because as working moms, our schedules are like Tetris. They're like literally constantly shifting, aren't they? And while disappointment surely is part of life, resilience is the muscle that helps us bounce back into that excitement and joyful energy. So let me ask you, when your plans change last minute, do you secretly celebrate the early night, or do you feel stuck in that what now kind of moment? And if it's the latter, you'll love today's episode because we're diving into how to handle canceled plans, how to build resilience, and shift from disappointment back into joy again.
oh yes, I love this already. Because honestly, there's that micro moment after plans change where you have a choice. Do I spiral into disappointment and mope? Or do I pivot and make something else great happen? And I'll be real, I've done both.
Same. And the reason we wanted to do this episode is because resilience, that ability to just bounce back, isn't just about big stuff like life-changing, career-changing moments like divorce, illness, and so on. But it's also about how you handle the little cancellations, delays, curveballs of life. Because those little moments are actually where you practice resilience. So you're stronger for when bigger things might happen.
Yeah, and don't you think people underestimate how much those small disappointments stack up? If you constantly dwell when something minor changes or something doesn't go according to plan, it's like training your brain to focus on loss rather than opportunity of that moment.
Totally. And the opposite is actually true. Because if you practice finding joy in a plan B, you build that muscle, you train that muscle. And honestly, as a single mom, I have to say, my plans get changed for me all the time. You know, if my daughter is sick or childcare falls through or a meeting moves, I have to train that resilience muscle. But when it is about something that I've been really looking forward to, then that gets a little bit harder, I have to say.
Oh, yeah. And then the frustration follows, and you're like, oh, I can't believe this happened. I've been waiting for this for so long. I totally hear you. But what we want people to hear with all this conversation that we're having today is that resilience isn't a talent you're born with. It's a skill, which means you can work on it.
Totally. So let's talk about the framework we're bringing today. It's about the 6 batteries you need to recharge. The idea here is that when plans change, instead of focusing on what you can't do, think about why you were excited about the original plan and which battery it was going to recharge for you. So meaning kind of like which emotion the whole thing was attached to for you. So there are these 6 different batteries in our lives that we need to recharge and kind of balance as well. So it's the first one is physical. So you recharge that by some movement, some rest, some nourishment, whatever you need physically. Then there is the emotional battery. So that's connections with others, that's hugging, that's laughter, Then there is a social battery where you feel that sense of belonging or shared experiences. The fourth one is the creative battery. So that's the self-expression, learning something new, making and creating something. The fifth one is the mental battery. That's about clarity, focus, curiosity, those kind of things. And the sixth one is the spiritual battery that carries the meaning, mindfulness, being out in nature, really connecting with the world. So, for example, if my friend cancels dinner and I was really looking forward to that emotional battery recharge of connection and laughter, and I just crave that fun night with a friend, then I can replace that by, for example, just calling another friend or watching a funny movie that really makes me laugh, or even playing a silly board game with my daughter. If I'm craving that kind of connection and I need to recharge that type of battery, then, that emotional battery, then those are alternatives that speak to that same need, that same why I was excited about that dinner with my friend. And it's not the same, but still, I can be there for myself. I can fulfill my needs by just listening to the why.
That makes me think of how I actually use this to charge my physical battery at times. So,
Mm.
if you were meant to go to the gym, for example, right, and the class gets canceled, or if the gym is closed, you can still recharge it by doing something else. So, the building I used to live in a couple of years ago, they had a gym which somebody used to come and open in the mornings and then clean and stuff and then close it at night. And every single holiday, I used to forget that the gym is closed. And I was in this zone of waking up at like 5 a.m. and going to the gym when it was still dark outside. And whenever that happened, instead of going right back to my bed, I would just go out for a run, even though it was just like beginning to become morning or the light was beginning to come out. And it was still dark outside, but I would just go for a run and come back home feeling so accomplished. So that was my pivot.
Just gone to a bar as well, if it's 5 a.m., if the gym is closed, why don't you pivot and go to a bar?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, but go for a run. Sure, that works too.
Absolutely. And I don't really enjoy running as much, but I still didn't want to lose that chance of charging my physical battery. So I would just go out. And you can do that too. You can go for a walk, do a YouTube workout, or just have a living room dance party, but charge your battery because it's the same battery, just a different charger.
I like that. Same battery, different charger. So we've been talking about this, and I've been talking about this topic, as I said, to a client as well. And something that I feel like is very prevalent in those moments is that we don't feel a lot of flexibility in our hearts and minds when we're disappointed. We're not like, okay, then I do something different. You're not in that vibe of being super flexible. You're dwelling or like stuck on that disappointment, on that lower energy. And therefore, what I've come up with, and it worked really well for my client, is to create a backup joy list in advance. So basically, how this works is that right now, when you're listening to this or right after this episode, you can sit down with your notes app on your phone and just write down a few things that bring you joy, that make you happy, that where you feel recharged, and you keep adding to the list as you go, whenever you do something that's fun for you. And that's your go-to for those moments. So what we want to bring to you today in this episode is how we create this list together and how we can give you some ideas of creating this list, some insights into the lists that we have built for ourselves. Maybe there's some inspiration in it for you. So basically, we call it a backup joy list, which is basically a menu of go-to activities that make you feel good. It's ready for you to pull out when plans change in that moment of feeling stuck or frustrated and trying to figure out and scrambling to figure out another thing to do in those hours ahead of you, rather than staying in that frustrated, level 1 or 2 type of energy, like Tanu would say, of dwelling in that change of plans. You shift to this backup joy list that feeds the same needs, just in a slightly different way. So why this really works is because you're listening to your needs, you're listening to your bodily, physical, emotional, spiritual, whichever need the activity that got cancelled spoke to. Still, you're honoring that need that you have in your body, that battery that you need to recharge, regardless of the plans falling through. You're not neglecting yourself because someone else or circumstances made something impossible, but you're actually there for yourself. You're honoring that need. And that is true self-love in action, I think.
This
You want
is
to add?
such a brilliant idea. Because what happens in that moment when you're hit with that disappointment of something not working out or a plan just falling through, you, like you said, go to the level 1 energy. And what happens when you're sitting in level 1 energy? Lack of action, right? You're not able to take action, which is why you feel like a toddler. Remember when we were kids, when a plan doesn't go through, a friend cancels or says not, they're not coming home, you just want to throw your toys and be like, I don't want to do anything. I don't want to eat my food. I don't want to do anything else. That's how you feel. Your childlike brain is still feeling the same way. And what you do then is nothing. So when you have this menu, it's so brilliant to have something that's like a hack for this kind of behavior. And instead of just falling into level 1 energy, you just reach out to this menu and pick what's the next best option for you is.
Totally. And you don't have to create this menu just for the moments when plans fall through. You can obviously do a lot of these things all of the time to recharge your batteries so those needs don't build up. And so you do feel comfortable to just go to bed whenever someone cancels on you because you don't have any open needs, you know?
Oh, yeah. Just like a toddler is in the middle of the tantrum, you cannot reason with it. The same way, you cannot create this menu while you are in that feeling of disappointment or level 1 energy.
Yeah. And you don't have to reserve the menu for the rainy day. You can use it on a sunny day as well when you want to treat yourself. So, shall we go into what our backup joy lists look like?
Yes, please.
So, my list has some fun things like big walks in the woods with my dog or going towards water. I love looking onto water as well. That really relaxes me and makes me happy. I also have on my list ordering my favorite takeout. So that's, I guess, a physical need that speaks to. There is a creative need that really speaks to me, decluttering a drawer, even just. So it makes you feel so satisfied and so accomplished when you decluttered something. I don't know, at least I am like that. One thing that's always on my list is reading with a cup of tea. I think that's more my dream list of things I want to do all the time. And I do way too little. If I have a need for connection, I love calling my grandpa for chat. The stories he tells me from his youth or from his life, or even advice he gives me about my daughter, about school, and those type of things, it's so wonderful. So I cherish that as long as I still am able to call him. And then there is another, I guess, more or less newfound thing that I love doing, and that's creating things. Baking while like listening to a podcast, or drawing, or creating something with AI. Like I'm creating coloring in books at the moment with my daughter. That's such a beautiful creative outlet where you see the immediate results, and that really makes me happy. So yeah, those things are my backup joy list. And it's not even just backup. What are yours, Tanu? Give us a little insight into what would be on your backup joy list.
For me, it'll be definitely watching an episode of a crime thriller or reading a book based on whatever mood I'm in. Maybe singing or dancing or working out. And yeah, I do have the cleaning and decluttering bug as well. that definitely calms me down. And a clean surrounding, that definitely charges my mental battery. I also love going out, dining to try new cuisines. And yeah, talking to my mom, just like you talk to your grandpa. I love dumping all the stuff that's going on in my life on my mom. And she's always been this best friend I had who I can share anything with. So that definitely calms me down or charges my emotional battery.
I remember back in the day when we used to work together, I would be anywhere, walking through the hallways or going to a meeting room or something like that. I would hear this light mumbling somewhere, like, no, 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 no. And it would be Tanu talking to her mom somewhere in a corner.
Yeah.
It's like you are like on a constant line with her, it feels like.
Yes, she's my first love.
That's so sweet. Okay, so let's get to the true benefit of doing this little exercise that goes such a long way. And it's a massive benefit because something us moms do way too little is listening to our needs. We listen to everyone's needs around us. We know every person's needs, but the voice that tells us from inside, this is what you need right now, this is what you crave, give that to yourself, that is often tuned down way too low. So this exercise and just having that consciously in your life, that backup joy list, is an exercise to tune up that volume on your needs and to enjoy your own company again, to really be comfortable being by yourself and doing something just for you. And no, it doesn't have to be a bubble bath. It can be so many things that bring you joy. So, it's really worthwhile sitting down and coming up with this list. You'd be surprised what comes to your mind. And so many people rely on external plans, external triggers, external motivation for joy. But when you can create it for yourself from within, you are just never at the mercy of someone else's schedule. And that's so beautiful.
This reminds me of how every religion or spiritual book talks about relying on yourself and finding the happiness or the joy within. And it is a huge resilience skill because you stop seeing change as loss and start seeing it as freedom to do something else you love. And an example I could think of is my marriage with my husband. When before I got married, I was living in London, I was living alone, and I enjoyed my own company so much. I did so many things with myself, and I was so happy about that. And when I got married, of course, I went all in, and I didn't even realize when I got so dependent on my plans with my husband, always working out as a source of joy, and I couldn't do anything by myself for a while. And as we got more comfortable with each other's rhythms, we started doing different things. And at some point, it felt like a scary change. And I started questioning it. Is this the end of my honeymoon period with him? And are we drifting apart? But obviously, that was all in my head. And I was kind of seeing it as a loss. So once I reframed and I truly looked at how much we were enjoying our own individual activities and interests, I realized that this is not a loss. This is actually healthy for a relationship, and that I could still find joy in things we did together. So that was truly the freedom to do things that we both loved, and I really love that about my relationship. Even now, that's how we thrive in this marriage, by having our own thing. And whenever something changes, we see it as the freedom to do something else that we love and find our own interests.
That's beautiful, Tanu. And I think that's such a good observation to take that courage to do your own thing, to follow your needs, to listen to your needs, and not see it as a failure of the relationship, but as a complement to the relationship that actually is so full of trust and love that you are able to enjoy things on your own as well. I think the curiosity and independence has to have room in a relationship.
Absolutely.
So, you guys, that brings us to this week's homework. We really want to give you that challenge to create your very own needs-tailored backup joy list. It might feel weird at first, but do it on your very personal phone notes app. Write down at least 10 activities that recharge your 6 batteries.
Next time something gets cancelled, instead of defaulting to doom scrolling or sulking, pick something from your list and see how it shifts your mood. That's your own
And,
personal menu. Nobody else created it for you. You created it for yourself.
and remember what we said all along, resilience is not about feeling disappointed. It's about not staying there. Plans can always change, but when you know how to recharge your batteries in other ways, same batteries, different charger, you bend, but you don't break.
Love that. You bend, but you don't break. You see, that's what resilience is all about. We'd love to hear what's on your backup joy list. So tag us on Instagram, share your ideas because we could all use some fresh inspiration. And send us a DM if you have any other ideas that you'd like us to include in our upcoming episodes.
Yeah, absolutely. Enjoy yourselves with the backup joy list. And for this week, that's a wrap.
Thanks for hanging out with us on Coach Me. Got a question or something you want us to coach through? Slide into our DMs or drop us a message. We might feature it on the next episode.
And hey, don't forget to hit follow. Your future self will thank you. Just one more quick note. Everything we share here is based on our own experiences and coaching tools. It's not medical or mental health advice. So if you're struggling or need support, please reach out to a qualified professional. You've got this and we've got you. See you next time on Coach Me. That's it.